The story of Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah from the book of Ruth provides profound insights into faith, loyalty, divine providence, and redemption. Naomi, a Jewish woman, leaves Bethlehem with her husband, Elimelech, due to a severe famine in Israel. They journey to Moab, a neighboring nation often at odds with Israel, but where resources were available. Moabites were descendants of Lot, and were generally not accepted by Israelites. Due to religious and cultural differences, including Moabite idol worship, Naomi's sons, Mahlon and Chilion, marry Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah. A significant detail because it demonstrates breaking social and religious norms for survival. Tragedy strikes when Naomi's husband and 2 sons die, leaving Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah as widows. The journey of loss and loyalty. Following these losses, Naomi decides to return to Bethlehem after hearing that the Lord has come to the aid of his people by providing food. Ruth 1 verse 6. Naomi urges her daughters-in-law to return to their families in Moab, as she has no more sons to offer them in marriage and little hope for the future. Here, we observe the first significant theme, loyalty in the face of suffering. 1. Orpah's decision. Orpah eventually chooses to return to her people and God's in Moab. This decision was not without merit. Orpah loved Naomi and, in a practical sense, was following Naomi's wishes. Her choice represents a typical human response to hardship, returning to familiar places and people to seek stability and comfort. 2. Ruth's commitment. Ruth's choice is what distinguishes her character and marks the turning point in the narrative. She famously declares, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people and your God my God." Ruth 1 verse 16 to 17. Ruth's loyalty is deeper than familial obligation. It is an expression of faith in Naomi's God, her choice to stay with. Naomi also symbolizes a spiritual conversion to the God of Israel, leaving her Moabite gods behind. Through Ruth's choice, we are reminded of the nature of covenant loyalty and the beauty of commitment. Ruth's selfless dedication foreshadows how God will reward her, emphasizing the biblical theme of faithfulness leading to divine favor. Revelations of God's providence and redemption. As Naomi and Ruth return to Bethlehem, Ruth takes initiative to glean in the fields to provide for them, coincidentally finding herself in the field of Boaz, a wealthy relative of Naomi's deceased husband. Boaz's role is crucial because he is identified as a kinsman redeemer Hebrew goal, a figure in Israelite law who had the responsibility to help relatives in need, particularly widows. Through Boaz, we gain insights into God's redemptive plan and his providential care. 1. God's hidden hand. The story subtly reveals God's hand at work. Each coincidence points to divine guidance, showing that God orchestrates events even when his presence is not overtly visible. Boaz's kindness toward Ruth, recognizing her loyalty to Naomi, reflects the character of a godly man who honors God's laws by providing for Ruth and allowing her to glean in his fields. Boaz exemplifies kindness and generosity toward the vulnerable. 2. Redemption through the kinsman redeemer. The role of Boaz as the kinsman redeemer highlights an important concept in Israelite culture and foreshadows the ultimate redemption found in Christ. The kinsman redeemer had the duty to buy back family land, marry the widow, and preserve the family lineage. Boaz eventually fulfills this role, not only redeeming Ruth but also Naomi's family line. The idea of a redeemer who restores what has been lost resonates deeply with Christian theology, as it anticipates the coming of Jesus, who is the ultimate redeemer. Lessons in character and virtue. The story reveals the virtues of humility, patience, and integrity through its characters. 1. Naomi's transformation. Naomi's journey is one from despair to restored faith. When she returns to Bethlehem, she is deeply bitter and even asks the townspeople to call her Mara, meaning bitter, blaming the Lord for her misfortune. Ruth 1 verse 20 to 21. Yet, as the story progresses, we witness Naomi's faith being renewed as she sees God's provision through Ruth and Boaz. Naomi's transformation shows that grief and bitterness can give way to hope when we see God's hand at work. Boaz's integrity and compassion. Boaz is a model of godly character. His respect and care for Ruth, a foreigner, reflects his obedience to the law and his compassion. Boaz protects Ruth in the fields, ensuring her safety among his workers and providing her with abundant grain. His integrity shines when he legally secures the right to marry Ruth, emphasizing that compassion and respect are central to godly character. Themes of redemption and restoration. The story ends with Boaz marrying Ruth, and they have a son named Obed. who becomes the grandfather of King David. This lineage is significant because it links Ruth, a Moabite, to the line of David and ultimately to Jesus, the Messiah. God's choice of Ruth to be in the messianic line reveals that his purposes often defy human expectations, using those who seem unlikely or marginalized. 1. Restoration of Naomi's hope. Naomi, who had returned to Bethlehem feeling empty and bitter, finds renewed hope in the birth of her grandson, Obed. The women of Bethlehem blessed Naomi, declaring, "Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a kinsman redeemer." Ruth 4:14. Naomi's story underscores that God can transform bitterness into joy and restore what seems lost. 2. God's redemptive plan through ordinary lives. Ruth and Naomi's story shows how God uses ordinary people and seemingly mundane events to fulfill his redemptive plan. Ruth's loyalty and Boaz's kindness lead to a union that becomes foundational to Israel's history. This theme of redemption through ordinary faithfulness points to the broader message that God works through the lives of everyday people to accomplish his purposes. Key takeaways and applications. 1. Loyalty and faithfulness are rewarded. Ruth's loyalty to Naomi and her faith in the God of Israel opened doors to blessings beyond what she could have imagined. Loyalty in relationships and faithfulness to God often lead to unexpected rewards and divine favor. 2. God's providence in difficult times. Just as God orchestrated events to provide for Naomi and Ruth, he works through circumstances in our lives, often in ways that are only clear in hindsight. Trusting God's providence, even when his presence seems hidden, is a vital lesson from this story. 3. Embrace redemption and new beginnings. Ruth's story is a reminder that God specializes in redemption and new beginnings, regardless of one's background or past. Faith in God opens the door to a transformed life and a place in his plan. 4. Compassion and integrity. Boaz's kindness toward Ruth emphasizes the importance of treating others with respect and compassion, especially those who are marginalized or vulnerable. His example encourages believers to act with integrity and to honor God in all relationships. 5. Hope beyond despair. Naomi's journey from bitterness to joy reveals that God can turn sorrow into celebration and provide